I am not a Democrat in the form of what the Democratic Party has turned itself into, the national brand. Absolutely not. The brand got so bad. The D brand has been so maligned from the standpoint of it's toxic.
Retiring West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin with some tough talk for the Democrat Party as he wraps up a decades-long career as one of the strongest centrist voices in the upper chamber. Joining me now to react, California Congressman Ro Khanna. Welcome back. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I want to get to that because you have also been vocal about what the party needs to do as sort of some introspection post-election. But I got to get to you because you represent Silicon Valley on this H-1B visa issue that I talked about with Senator Schmidt. It's gotten really ugly on social media, and part of that has gotten into culture. I want to read part of what Vivek Ramaswamy posted on X in talking about this. He says a part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. Well, Nikki Haley, former ambassador, responded to that saying there's nothing wrong with American workers or American culture. All you have to do is look at the border and see how many want what we have. We should be investing and prioritizing in Americans, not foreign workers. What do you make of this culture argument and the need to invest more in American workers, American students, to make sure they are up to taking these jobs and there won't be as great a need to look overseas?
Well, American culture is extraordinary, and I respectfully disagree with Vivek. You know, I was a valedictorian in my high school, and they respected valedictorians and people who were exceptional at football and music. And what makes American culture extraordinary is that we celebrate the talent and genius and skills of people of diverse backgrounds. There's a reason that America leads in Nobel laureates in physics and in medicine and in chemistry. If there was some problem with the culture, we wouldn't be the world's greatest economy of 30 trillion. But one of the points that I think Elon and others are making is what makes America as exceptional is that we are a magnet for the world's talent. It's great that Elon Musk comes here. It's great that Jensen, who started NVIDIA, is doing it here and not in Taiwan. We made a mistake when we lost Morris Chang, who was an immigrant here, educated at MIT. He leaves the United States, and guess what? He starts Taiwan Semiconductors, and now we don't have semiconductors in the United States. So we want the best talent coming here while reforming the abuses of the H-1B program.
So let's talk about that, because critics will say these aren't always people with specialized genius level technology. There are people who are doing jobs that could go to Americans. Neil Patel of the Daily Caller wrote a really lengthy post. People can check it out on X. I'm just going to read part of it. He says that big tech is the only group that actually benefits here. It's not the foreign worker. It's not the American worker. He says the system keeps many of these workers in a legal limbo, often for decades. Workers tied down like this are less able to negotiate salary and benefits. That's the main reason big tech loves hiring H-1Bs. American workers who then have to compete with these foreign workers are thereby hurt by unfair labor conditions. He says the system is broken. It needs major reform. And if you don't see that, either you don't understand what's happening or you're not being truthful. So let's talk about where you think there is room for reform.
Well, Neil is largely right on the need for reform. I have a bipartisan bill, which we introduced with former Representative David Brat. Today, Paul Gosar, Frank Pallone, and I are on it. And basically, it would say you can't underpay these H-1B folks coming in. And you shouldn't have lower skilled things that could be done by American workers. You shouldn't have that kind of category in the United States. It shouldn't be for accountants or entry-level IT jobs. It should really be for exceptional talent. And we can have that balance. And I hope President Trump actually looks at that bipartisan bill that would reform this. But, you know, Senator Schmidt said that America's towns have been hollowed out, and he's absolutely right, and workers have gotten a raw deal because jobs have been offshored. Let's just be honest about this H-1B program. We're talking about 85,000 people. Sometimes it goes up to 200,000 because there are too many exemptions. But the real challenge in America is, how did we lose steel? How did we lose aluminum? How did we allow for deindustrialization? You want to bring back new jobs, you need to have the investment in reindustrialization of America and places left out. And that's what we should be talking about.
Okay, so with Elon and Vivek, or not talking about this H-1B visa program and getting into these epic fights on social media. They're now about the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as people are calling it. Where do you think you or other Democrats could work with them on cutting government waste?
Well, I've gotten some criticism on my side because I said I'm open to working to cut programs that are not competitive. For example, the defense budget, 56% a discretionary budget. It's dominated by 5 primes. And Musk is saying that maybe we can disrupt that, have new competition so that we actually have a better national security strategy without all of the waste. If there are real proposals to do that, then Democrats should work with him. If there are actually duplicative agencies that aren't efficient on taxpayer dollars, then we should work with him. What I will not do is support any cuts to Social Security, any cuts to Medicare, any cuts to veteran benefits, any cuts to education programs that parents rely on. But there is no doubt that there's waste, and where there is waste, we should work at putting the country first.
So let's get back to your reflections. You wrote some tough truths to your party after the loss in November of the White House, House, and Senate. You said essentially they weren't listening to people where they are suffering pain. You said you've got to get to common sense on things like crime and safety and those kinds of issues. How has your analysis been received internally? Do you feel like Democrats have a path forward?
Absolutely, we have a path forward, but we need generational change. Look, people are upset with the system. They're upset that too many billionaires are spending money on our elections. They're upset that politicians offshore jobs and lost industry for decades. They're upset that health care is being denied to too many Americans. And while this is going on, you have some of the people in our party who have been in Congress for 20, 30 years, and they're not change agents. We need a new generation to step up. We need people who were part of the failed status quo to step aside. And I think the vibrancy of the House Democratic Caucus, where you have new generational leaders and some in the Senate, is what's going to revitalize this party.
So there was a piece in The Hill as you get ready to come back here, swearing in the new Congress, got to elect a speaker, do all of these things. This piece in The Hill by 2 attorneys said that Congress needs to block President Trump from being certified as the winner. They said Democrats need to take a stand against electoral college votes for a person disqualified by the Constitution from holding office. And they have arguments about that. No less is required by their oath to support and defend the Constitution. Now, in 2016, a number of Democrats did push back against certifying the first win by President Trump. What do you expect this time around?
We're going to certify the election. I plan to show up to the inauguration. It's not about President Trump. It's about honoring the American people. And we've got to get past this thing that everything has to be partisan. You know, when I put forward a proposal of common sense on H-1B reform, I had people on my side saying, why are you doing that, Ro? Let the Republicans fight. Let them destroy each other fighting. That's the wrong approach. We're Americans first. We've got to be solution-oriented. The American people just elected Donald Trump. I worked my heart out to oppose him. I went to every state, but we lost the election. We respect the American people, and now let's think about how we have a better message going forward.
All right, so let me get you respond then to Jen Rubin, who writes an opinion column over at the Washington Post. She says Democrats should not try to find common ground with Trump. She says a depressingly high number of elected Democrats are declaring their intent to find, quote, common ground with President-elect Donald Trump and his, as she calls it, crackpot cabinet picks. Their naive, tone-deaf declarations epitomize an infatuation with bipartisanship for bipartisanship's sake. She says you shouldn't be doing it. Your response?
We need to look at it issue by issue. No one is saying that we should work with Republicans or Donald Trump if there's any proposal to cut Social Security, or if there is a proposal to politicize the Justice Department, or if there is a proposal to abolish the Department of Education. Of course, Democrats will oppose that with our values. But if the president has actually a good idea to bring manufacturing back, or to cut wasteful defense spending, or to make our food system safer and get the additives out of our food, why wouldn't we want to work on things that are good for the American people? This is the part of politics that folks are sick about, that we're always looking at things from a partisan lens as opposed to what's good for America. And what they want actually is change agents on the Republican side and the Democratic side.
Yeah, our numbers showed people desperately wanted change in big numbers, more than 80% saying they wanted complete upheaval or significant change. So there's definitely a theme there. All right, Congressman, we'll see you back here in the new year. Thank you always for your time, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.